Yeah, she's got
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, joining you live on Sunday to break down the NFL draft. It's over, and now we get to process what did the Bears do, give our grades out, and also give an additional level of detail. Hey, pal, I missed you on Thursday, but it was freaking late out. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, you know me. I'm just getting old every single day, and I needed my beauty sleep. I'm trying to get as much as I can get, but yeah, I'm doing great. I mean that whole draft, like that was my first kind of full draft experience. I never really watched it too much when even like last year, I didn't watch it too much, so
Yeah.
it was really exciting. I don't know if drafts always have that many trades, but it was so fun to you almost had to always be watching because you never knew okay, the Bears might trade up for this guy or they might trade back for their pick or there's just so many things that could be going on.
Totally. And my wife and I, we do this tradition now because I love the draft. It's on my birthday. So yeah, my birthday is the 28th. So we celebrated, but then we watch the draft. We get deep dish pizza because we live in Wisconsin and it's hard to find. So it's a big deal to be because they call deep dish pizza here just like pizza that was just made in a deep dish. So we found it. It was glorious. But then we print off a mock draft and then we write down what we think is going to happen. And it was so hard this year. It was crazy, but it was so enjoyable. So that's why we're going to be breaking this down. But also, big announcement for everyone out there. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we thought, hey, you know what? Before we used to always give to charities, why are we not doing it now? So we are back on the bandwagon. We will be donating a portion of what we make on this show over to the National Alliance of Mental Illness throughout the month of May. So make sure to make sure to comment. Also, if you do suffer from mental illness, make sure to take care of yourself. However it is, make sure to do that. But also, if we break 2,000 subscribers or when we break 2,000 subscribers, I will donate an additional 100 on top of that. So share the word and share it out there, but make sure to take care of yourself. So yeah, we'll be donating to NAMI. I'll put a link in the description that you can click and donate yourself. I think they're matching everything. So make sure to do that. But PayPal,
Nice.
Let's get into this draft, shall we?
Let's do it. Yeah, hey, that draft, talking about mental health, helped my mental health. I mean, it was such a fun draft. There's some picks, maybe it was honestly bad for your mental health watching it because it was so up and down of gosh, what are they gonna do? It was almost stressful at points.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun draft. I liked honestly most of the guys that they drafted. I'm pretty high on this draft.
Yeah, I do like it. And I want to say too, right as we get started as well, to me, there was a common trend with this. And I'm going to share this out because the common trend that I saw was for those that like the Raz Math Bomb projections, right? So they do a giant projection of just how athletic is everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone that the Bears drafted was above an 8.0. For those that don't know, that is green. That is, these guys are crazy athletic. And so everybody 8.0 or higher. So the Bears clearly wanted to get some athletes out there, and that's exactly what they did. And anytime that there was an athlete or anytime someone was on the board, I'm like, okay, so what was their score? And let's check that out, right? Because it seemed like that's all they wanted was just the athletes, pure athletes.
It was pure athlete, and another one, it was pure athlete and character guys. I mean, every single interview I watched of these guys, I was like, these guys are amazing. Tyler Scott was one of those guys that completely jumped out at me. Every single question they had for him, he gave a whole backstory of, him playing running back or just him owning baseball cards or things like that. He would just get in detail and you could tell he just loves football. So the Bears, they picked physical guys, but also high character guys where, if you're high character, I think it translates you're going to be coachable. I mean, if you're a low character, you're most likely kind of not a coachable person. So I love it.
For sure. So let's actually get started with this because, yeah, there was a lot of draft picks out there. So let's actually get started with the first pick. And the first pick, we can't even technically get started because there was trade. So the Bears traded the 9th pick, as we know, as we saw, for the 10th pick and then a 4th round pick. And ideally, I think with this, what the Bears did with this trade was really just say, hey, we want to get a tackle. Let's just trade back. Let's just get something for it. That's kind of the general feeling on that. But with this pick, the Bears end up getting tackle Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. PayPal, I gave what I thought about Darnell Wright on the show on Thursday. What was your opinion and what do you think about this?
Yeah, first things first. Yeah, that trade, I was kind of disappointed at first, but when you really look into it, it was like, okay, like you're happy at the end of the day. When we saw, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw DeJuan Jones available in like the 3rd, 4th round, I was like, hey, maybe we should have gone. Maybe we should have just waited for a tackle. But hey, I love Darnell Wright as well. I mean, 6'5", 333, huge guy, big mauler, big power, all the guys, great character, as you can see in his interview. Just like the first 10 seconds, you're like, wow, this guy's great. But obviously the thing that people were really talking about was, yeah, he had this amazing outing when he faced Will Anderson at Alabama. Like he seemed like one of the only guys that could really stop him in college football. And so that was just huge, where Will Anderson was just completely productive, so productive. So great pass blocker out the gate. Do not really need to help him in that area. But it's just kind of that run blocking that he's not the best at, but can definitely be coached into doing better. Because I think, Brad, we got a really great offensive line coach. And I mean, Darnell Wright was talking about him, and you can tell how much he respects him just with his few conversations he had with our coach.
Yeah. And I think what's funny, too, is you see a lot of people out there that talk about Darnell Wright, and they're like, he's a great run blocker. And it's like, he's not, actually. When you watch the tape, he looks a little awkward, but when he gets his hands on you, then that's when he's dominant.
Game over.
Yeah, totally. And I think overall, though, just because I know we want to grade every single pick. So I'm curious out there, everybody who's watching, how would you grade the pick of Darnell Wright? Because to me, I gave my opinion on it before. To me, it's like a solid B, but because they traded back and just got a little bit of draft capital, I gotta tip my hat off to them and say, you know what, that was good. So I'm giving it like a B plus. PayPal, what about you?
Yeah, I think you're spot on actually with that. It truly was probably, I think it's the guy that they're looking out to get in the draft, and just adding that trade back just made it even better. So I got to go with the B plus as well. I wasn't like over the hill, like crazy about him. It wasn't like a steal of the draft. Some people are saying it kind of is a steal. Like he was very underrated. But I think it was a great pick with the B plus.
Awesome. So B plus, we're getting an A out there as well. I think ultimately this was the Bears' number one guy that they wanted out of the offensive line. I think that kind of came out inside of the Bears conversation. So since he was the top OT on their board, right? Yet again, this is their board. They got their guy. They got an extra pick, and it seemed like they were going to go with a tackle no matter what. The offensive line looks shored up. So I think overall, yeah, it's a solid pick. But let's go over to the next pick. And Gervon Dexter. So we called him Gervon. So the big question to me is it going to be Gervon? Anytime he sucks, I'm going to call him Gervon. I'll be like, Gervon, what are you doing? But if he's doing well, it's Gervon.
Yeah, he's got to earn his respect.
He's got to earn the proper O at the end of Gervon. So to me, it's going to be about Gervon and what he does. But let me tell you a little bit about Gervon Dexter, pick number 53 out of Florida. We broke him down a little bit, but basically the big thing is he reminds me of Rashid Hageman, who, yes, was a bust. And that's what scares me with this player. He's a huge boomer bust prospect, 6'6", 312, 5-star, coming out of high school. This dude is crazy. But I put this out in my notes, comically bad get off. Like when you watch this tape, for anybody that's watching it, it's like it's ice shatter or glass breaking moment when you watch him play and you go, this guy's got a bad get off. He literally, everybody moves and then he moves. So I heard someone say, well, maybe he'll be a run stuffer. And I think that's really where they're going to use him. And I think ultimately with this pick, I saw some people in the comments say this already, but I do think that Poles reached out here and they wanted to shore up the D tackle. Like it was clear in day 1 and day 2, their mission was they wanted to fix the holes. And with this, they wanted to fix the D tackle spot and everybody was gone. So they definitely reached and they definitely added some people, but they have a spot where it's boom or bust. But this guy, like literally, he's got just this natural strength to him to just move people around and just dominate. So now it's on the coaching staff. The coach, if he can get coached up, this guy's a beast. But this is someone who is either going to be a beast or a bust pretty quick. That's just my take on him. But what about you, PayPal?
I completely agree with that, Brad. And yeah, it's the question we've been saying for a while. Like, is this defensive line coach actually good? Can he actually coach these guys? Because we just saw how our defensive line just was absolutely atrocious last year, and it was kind of like, is it the coaching or is it the players? We don't know, so I guess we'll find out. So yeah, it was kind of a reach. And I guess my grade for Gervon.
Gervon, yeah.
Gervon. I would say a B-.
Okay.
It's still good. I have this could be an A. Like you could look back and be like, wow, that was a great pick. It's just kind of that reach, like you're talking about. That was like he's kind of been projecting almost in the third, a little bit later, and even some say fourth, but it was kind of too much of a reach for me where I was like, all right, we could have waited or just picked someone different.
Yeah, it was definitely a reach, and I was debating on showing this, but I think that this is a perfect time to talk about reaches and the benefit and the bad parts about reaches, right? So I actually just tweeted this out on the Unbearable Sports Twitter page. I probably need to post this to Instagram as well. But I posted a little bit of analytics. And so PayPal and everyone out there, think about what players we feel good about from last year, right? With last year's draft class, right? We're probably like, okay, Braxton Jones for sure. Kyler Gordon a little bit, right? And Jaquan Brisker and Dominique Robinson, right? Like, or Dominique Robinson more as like, okay, he's going to be a depth piece. And then Tyrique Carter's probably going to be a backup. Bayless is going to be fighting for a roster spot. Zachary Thomas going to be fighting for a roster spot. I mean, not even on the team, never mind. Tristan Ebner is going to be doing that. Here's something that I want to just bring up. So I put this data together that talks about just where the Bears reached according to consensus. Because I don't like draft, even though I'm doing a draft grade show, I know the hypocrisy of what I'm doing right now, but I don't love all the draft grades because it's really just how good did someone draft. And based on consensus, the Bears were like right in the middle. Like they drafted well and some bad ones. But literally last year where they skewed away from consensus, it was Velus Jones, Zachary Thomas, Tristan Ebner, Elijah Hicks. A lot of people that didn't necessarily hit. The people that they went above, the people that they got like as a steal, Dominique Robinson, Braxton Jones, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, all players that are good. And so we'll talk about these reaches because those that are watching can see where everyone's at. The Bears got some really great steals later on that we'll talk about later. But yeah, Gervon Dexter was 19 picks earlier than he was kind of expected to go according to consensus. And Zacch Pickens was a full round ahead of where he was kind of expected to go. So
Mm-hmm.
this is just interesting stats. And this is just where like there's so much data out there. And I just like the idea of the consensus pieces, right? And so, like I said, that's out on Twitter. You can kind of read it, where I just kind of posted the consensus picks out there, or just who drafted around consensus. And you kind of saw this. The first round for the Bears, the first day and the second day was really reaching for needs. And then the early third day was just taking best player available, like truly taking best player available. And then round 7, the Bears just say, screw it, you know?
Yeah.
But
hey, I don't blame him. I mean, I would be scared because it's like we needed those, the defensive interior. Like, that was a big spot in our defense. But you look at a team like the Eagles. I mean, they were on a complete opposite spectrum of they were just able to do best player available. And I saw in that in your data, they were the highest ranked team of like, they just, picked who was the best available and probably turn out pretty good for them.
Exactly. And I saw some people out there, like some former scouts that were like, we don't know what data there is. And it's like, well, technically when you have we have a lot of data at our fingertips that you can just literally leverage and say best player available. And I see some people like, Tuli was available. Tuipulotu, who is a kind of could potentially play on the inside. But these were the Bears guys. But speaking of the Bears guys, though, the Bears did have a guy. And they traded up for him at pick 56. They traded up pick 56. They traded away pick 61 and 136. And with that pick, they took none other than the one Tyrique Stevenson out of Miami. PayPal, I know this is kind of your boy. I know that you like him.
Oh yeah, I love him, Brad. I don't know. He's been growing on me, and then just watching him draft day, I was like, wow, I'm a big fan of this person. But yeah, is 6 foot 198, big physical corner out of Miami. Like, I really enjoyed watching his highlights, and honestly, the best part of his highlights was his like tackling. He almost looks like a safety, the way he tackles and plays the run game, and you could see in his film his instincts of attacking the running back and reading, say, if they're going to run on his side or trying to do like play action. He could decipher the offense pretty well. With that, I mean, he's a great player, and it's just kind of that athleticism, is that kind of quickness can translate. But Brad, I mean, we got a guy on the other side that kind of had that same problem, and he's done pretty darn well until he got injured, and we don't know how Jalen Johnson is going to do now in the future. But Tyrique Stevenson, I love him. I think he just fits this team perfectly, and I just can't wait for him to be on that opposite side and put Gordon in at the slot. We're going to have a very tall, big, physical corners playing for the Bears.
Yeah, I definitely see why the Bears liked him. And I think as well, when you see, like, he was on a visit with the Bears. And and I think, too, a lot of people love this guy's floor. They say that this is a player that has the physical tool set. I like him in the zone scheme because he's got a lot of forward and back type of movement. I am a little bit down on him compared to consensus, but what I do like, and here's the big thing though, there is that layer of humbleness where there's a lot of people, like yourself included, that really like Stevenson. And it's not saying I think he's bad. My biggest question though is that quickness. And there was also a lot of other corners still available. So that's where I also kind of pump the brakes on just them. Like, why did you trade up for it? I think for this though, you get an outside corner to start and be that outside player. And then when you look at this, Kyler is going to go in the slot. Kyler is going to be a slot player now because Stevenson is not going to be a slot corner. I think overall, I don't hate this. To me, it's just like, it's a B, like just a solid, like, this is a good pick. Cause I think also I'm not in love with the player, but this is a good pick. You traded up, so maybe it's more of like a B minus. But I think that is just a solid player, solid corner. and he should be able to start for you day one. But I like him more than some of the other players that we got in day two.
Hey Brad, he's an A in my book.
Let's
maybe
go.
I'm over optimistic about him,
but
I really like him. I think he just fits everything that the Bears need, from his his charisma, his play, his physicalness, just everything about him. I really enjoy watching him, and I think he can fit really well with the scheme. Like, yeah, he's a great person to have as a press corner and be able to tackle and wrap guys up. And I think we'll kind of touch on this a little later, but someone in the comments brought up a good point of, we drafted Tyrique Stevenson maybe as that kind of that Jalen Johnson replacement, if we don't sign him, and then we'll talk about a guy later, that might replace Mooney. We'll see.
Yeah, so we got a lot of A's out there. We got a lot of A pluses. And I think, too, the thing that I do like about him, and I'll definitely say it, because I think Julius Brents was already out. So you get a bigger physical corner. So for sure. So Tyrique Stevenson, a lot of love out there. And yeah, I love the idea of getting a corner early, though, for the Bears, because like has been kind of commented out there, the Bears will most likely need a corner coming up. Because Jalen Johnson, why isn't he re-signed? Also, you don't know for a fact that Kyler Gordon's going to ball out, right? So you don't know that. And because you don't know that, it's good that you are drafting a player like this.
Hey, Brad, one last thing on him. I mean,
okay.
Kendall Vildor, we can hopefully say bye to Kendall Vildor.
Yeah.
Put him where he needs to be. He's a great backup to have for the team, but thank God he's not going to be starting anymore. At least that's what the hope is.
I want to see him ball out in preseason, though, because I feel like he deserves a chance.
He does,
because they said that he looked so good. He wasn't bad last year, but then he was just banged up. But yeah, I like the idea of having him out there more than Vildor, and then Vildor can just do more special teams. We did draft a lot.
Quick fun thing I saw too with Stevenson. Hey, he was a punt returner for Miami for a bit. And last time we drafted a quote unquote punter from Miami was do you know who that would be, Brad?
That'd be Mr. Actually, no. He's dead to me. Sorry. He's dead to me.
Devin Hester was, a punt returner from Miami. So,
sorry. I don't know why I was thinking punter. I just heard punter from Miami, and I just thought of mega punt. So yeah, Devin Hester's not dead to me. Mega punt.
Yeah, mega punt is dead. Yeah.
Like, oh man, yeah.
Not saying he's gonna be like Devin Hester, but I just think it's a fun little fact.
Yeah, it is. It is cool, and I always like having the kick returners and punt returners that can play corner as well, because then you got that like the fluid, the quickness out there too. So let's go over to the third round pick that we made at pick 64, and that is none other than Zacch Pickens. And to me, this is very similar. This is another boom or bust type of prospect out here, where another 5-star recruit, one of the top people in the nation coming out of high school, never lived up to the hype. But rather than Gervon Dexter is more of like the run stuffer, can more so play that role. Pickens is going to be more of your actual 3 technique that the hope is that he can attack the passer. So he has a little bit of Maurice Hurst to him, but he needs to be significantly more consistent. Now, the thing that I do find interesting is that motor was a concern with both of these defensive tackle prospects. Obviously, the Bears feel comfortable with them, being able to add them in. But yeah, this is another pick that, like we said before, that we stated, was definitely a round ahead of where he was supposed to go according to consensus. So yes, consensus kind of gets thrown around a little bit, but yeah, they definitely reached. But I will say this, though, about this pick. I do really like the idea of doubling up at defensive tackle, just so that you have 2 defensive tackles and hopefully one of them hits, right? They're 2 boom or bust. One should hit, you would hope. Otherwise, if both don't hit, then crap, right? But you're hoping that at least one of these players hits and becomes a solid contributor, and then they can be in the rotation with Andrew Billings and also Justin Jones. And like we've said before, your defensive ends can also slide in at 3-tech if you absolutely need it. So it was obvious that they wanted to improve the defense. And I think that honestly, these D tackle picks, I like the concept of double stacking, but I don't like just how aggressive they were with the double stacking.
Yeah, you could have waited a little bit to get guys but yeah, both of these were kind of reaches. And yeah, Brad, they definitely have a type. I mean, both really big physical project guys, both like sub 540s. Not the highest bench presses. They both got 22. So like you can tell they definitely have like a versatile defensive tackle type that they wanted to have for this team. It's just funny. I think about these are the two guys, the Gervon and Zacch Pickens were two guys we were not high on before the draft experience, but hey, they're on our team and hopefully they had that potential. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing as Dexter where it was a reach. This guy's questionable. So I'm doing a B-. I like what I saw him on tape. I mean, he's got great highlights when he does things well. Better get off than Gervon or German Dexter. But we just don't know yet.
I love what Laz says in the comments where it's like we can start evaluating this coaching staff better 100%, right? Because I saw someone post out on Twitter, Fields, we can't make excuses for Fields anymore. Second year in the offense, he's got good people around him. And this defense, I already had questions on the D-line coach. And here's the big thing too. The defensive line, like Dominique Robinson, Pickens, like everyone that we're talking about, Dexter, they're all projects. So offensive line coach, I have faith in. Defensive line coach, we saw everybody take a step back last year. So that dude better earn his money this year. There's a lot of people out there. But yeah, then Iceberg talks about Edmonds. And I think another reason why they wanted to kind of double up on some D tackles early, you need to have some good D tackles in order to make your linebackers that you paid for make their jobs a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what happened day 3. Because, dude, this is when it was awesome. Like, because when it hit day 3, the Bears were making moves. The Bears were making trades. The first trade that they made was to start off the day. And I had my Twitter notifications turned off because I don't want to get spoiled of any of these picks. But then I was just like I was like, you know what? There's some time. And I look, Bears traded away pick 103 and get pick 115 and 165. Now, I know that this did piss a lot of Bears fans off because Whippler was still on the board. A lot of other people were on the board, right? Adibare was still on the board. And ultimately, the Bears said, nah, we're just going to trade back a little bit. And with that, they got one of my favorite players in the draft. I know that the chat was already going crazy for this guy. And that is none other than Roschon Johnson out of the University of Texas. PayPal, what did you think about this pick?
Yeah, I love that, Brad. I'm honestly kind of happy they did trade back just so that we got at least another 5th. So it's like we got another day 3, pick where we could jump on another prospect.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is when we just started picking best player available at this point, and it was awesome. Great, not the best speed. I mean, he has a 4.58 40, but man, when you look at it's weird. He doesn't look that slow though when you actually watch him on tape. Like he looks fast, he looks powerful. Like I know we talked about this, Brad. It's like you could not tell the difference sometimes between him and Bijan Robinson. You just saw two,
for sure.
You just saw two great running backs out there. If you ever watched a Texas game, and yeah, it's like he's got everything that we need in a versatile running back. Almost seems like a great replacement for Montgomery, where we got this power back that can also block and receive, which is exactly what Montgomery was for us. And we didn't have to pay him. So I love the pick. And this guy's an animal. His character, he just seems so like, maybe it's like that Justin Fields. We just got to open him up a little bit, but in his like media availability, he just seemed very like, out of all the guys we drafted, he was very I guess monotone and didn't really show any personality. So I guess he's all about that work.
Yeah. And I gotta say too, everyone's favorite Lions fan, Don Burr's in the comments on YouTube. For those that listen to the show, if you just go out on YouTube, you'll see Don Burr all over Bears podcasts out there. So I just want to say thank you for paying Monty. He deserved the money. And
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, I love this pick. I really liked him out there, and the guy's just powerful. The guy is also, you see the quickness. And I tweeted this out on our main account where you see it in his 40 time, right? He's not going to be running away from anybody, but he's got the quickness to just kind of no BS, right? He's not going to do what Monty was doing. He's just going to find the hole, hit the hole. I like this. I think that this is just an overall good pick. He seems very focused. And to me too, like we showed before, actually, now I got to pull this up. Now I got to go back to our, to the actual overall big board. He dropped almost a full round. So this is a plus 29 compared to consensus. So it was taken best player available, and he's good. And I really like this player, really like this pick. I'm going to go A-. I really, really like him. I think that he could do some great stuff out here. So A- for me, because Bears went best player available. So
yeah. I agree, Brad. I'm going A- as well. Honestly, this guy I think could be our starting running back sooner or later. We'll see how he plays, in preseason and everything, but I would not be surprised if he's the starter by the end of this next upcoming year.
Yeah. For sure. Don's talking smack in the comments saying this guy was a number 2 guy in college. Yeah, to the best running back in the NCAA. So also, yeah, former quarterback. So definitely.
And just a quick thing too. I mean, we're talking about running backs is a weird thing where there's not a 1 and 2. It's the 2 play styles. So like, just because you're the backup doesn't mean you're not you're still. Like you're the Thunder and Bijan was the Lightning, so to speak.
Yeah, I definitely think that this, like, you watch the tape, this guy is good, and he just seems so determined too. Like he's like, you know what? I'm gonna prove Don Burr that I was the number 2 running back at Texas for a reason.
Yeah, right.
I really like this, but then now we're going to another pick and day 3, because I'll be honest with you. Day 2, I was frustrated because I did not like what the Bears did. I was like, what the heck are they doing? Because did not like the D tackles. Did not like, like I said before, I'm not super high on Tyrique Stevenson and the trading up, but it feels good day 3 when there is a best player available and then they draft him. And this Tyler Scott was supposed to go in the 2nd or 3rd round, but with pick 133, the Bears select Tyler Scott, the speedster wide receiver out of Cincinnati. Kind of reminds me a little bit of T.Y. Hilton and a little bit of Darnell Mooney. 5'11", 177, so a smaller guy, but also former running back. Big play receiver, former junior Olympic sprinter, crazy speed. And this was like the Jalen Hyatt guy that you could get a Jalen Hyatt or you could get Tyler Scott. I don't think this guy will ever become a number 1. I think that where he's best suited is being like a number 3 receiver, a deep ball player. Like that's purely what he's going to do. And I think right away he's going to take what Velus was doing over because Velus did not show anything from a hands perspective. Tyler Scott, now he's not going to be mossing people out there, but what he is going to be doing is he's going to be running deep. He's going to be blowing by some people, and he also has some great quickness to him. I think that this was just an overall great pick. Absolutely loved it. Was going crazy out there because we went best player available. There were so many good wide receivers out there, and Darnell Mooney's contract's coming up, and Chase Claypool's contract is coming up. It's good for the future, and it's good for right now. PayPal, what do you say?
And yeah, he was a great, I think I really saw Mooney in him when I was watching his stuff, because he plays a lot bigger than his actual size. He plays a lot stronger and has a really strong hands for being 177, 5'11". So I love the pick, Brad, and I gotta go with an A for Tyler Scott as well. Whew. I mean, this day 3 was starting off hot, where I think this guy will fit great, and love his character. I think he's honestly going to be a great leader and play in the league for a long time.
Like I said, I was down after the first 2 days. This lifted my spirit. Dude, I was dancing. I was happy because these, it's almost like Don Burr will appreciate this. It's almost like the Lions draft, right? Where if you shift the picks around a little bit, you're like, it's not a bad draft.
Yeah.
Right? Like some of these players, Tyler Scott was supposed to go in the second, go in the third, and even Roschon Johnson I was seeing was eventually going to be at like the back of the third a little bit earlier because of just his potential. And I really liked what they did out here with Tyler Scott. I'm giving this an I'll give this an A just because you have it. And I'm always like a little bit down. I'll give an A just because I was so pumped. I was so jazzed with what was going on with these picks right here. But then after that, they're like, you know what? We're going to go best player again. And the Bears end up selecting a linebacker for a little bit of depth, Mr. Noah Sewell out of Oregon. PayPal, what can you say about him?
Yeah, this one was interesting where, it's like we don't need a linebacker, but great player. This is probably I'm keep saying one of my favorite highlight films to watch, but Noah Sewell is one of those guys. I think he just completely shows what the hits principle is. Like, he finished his plays. He just works his butt off when he's playing out there. Like, he's fast. He's just quick. And when he just wraps guys up. Like, when he gets his mitts on you, he just wraps you up, and it's something to watch. So I love seeing him. Like, he can kind of that, I don't want to say dual threat linebacker, but he can blitz outstanding. Kind of has a weird frame where he's 6'1", 246, so he's a big boy. But yeah, I really like him, and we'll see if he does start. I mean, Jack Sanborn, we'll see if Noah Sewell can kind of compete with you for that kind of Sam linebacker spot. But hey, he's something that's really fun and kind of almost the same, I guess, complaints that Sanborn was having. He seems a little bit more quicker than what Sanborn was in Wisconsin, but great instincts, I think, too. Smart football player, just like Sanborn.
Yeah, and you guys just got me a Sanborn jersey for my birthday, so
yeah.
I want to be rocking that. And is this going to be a not new jersey? Like, am I going to be rocking that now? People are like, oh man, remember when we liked him last year?
Nah. Hey, that's gonna be awesome though.
I'll rock the crap out of that. No, I feel it with Noah Sewell, where the Bears needed depth at linebacker, and Noah Sewell is someone that I think that some people are starting to ask a little bit, could he potentially, he's adding linebacker depth, but could he even rush the passer? I don't necessarily see him as a defensive end at that 6'1" size, but I think that you can kind of in that Sam linebacker spot, I think that you can blitz him heavily and he can help. And I think the Bears are going to sign a defensive end or trade for one of the Washington defensive ends soon. I feel like in the next couple of months, we're going to see some traction and some movement out there. So I think, though, overall, I like this pick because, yet again, Noah Sewell, another person where the Bears did go best player available. And it's a linebacker that's big, that's going to be able to just really kind of put some pressure and really attack the line of scrimmage. Noah Sewell, to me, I'm going A minus. I like it. You're adding depth in these later rounds. He's not going to be starting. He might be starting Sam, but I love just the concept of getting the best player or one of the best player available to back someone up and also give you what you need at the linebacker position. It just makes sense. So I really liked it. And also last year, people were saying that when everyone does their too early mock drafts, this guy was going in the first round. So he's got the talent out there and got the pedigree. So I really like this. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I would say like an A minus. Great player, so fun to watch, and I think he's gonna have a lot of highlights and great character. So very very coachable as well. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And yeah, we got a lot of comments. I got the little action, the animation now on the screen. I got to find a quicker one because it's just it takes so long for it to load up. But let's go into the next pick. And this I think turned a lot of heads because this is someone that we did not talk about at all on this show. And I had to do a little bit of digging on him because I saw some of it. But at pick 165 in the 5th round, the Bears select cornerback Terell Smith out of Minnesota. What I could tell you about him is he's big, right? Some people are already asking, is this guy a safety? Is this guy a corner? I still think that he's an outside corner. We like our big corners. And also, he's very similar to Tyrique Stevenson. He's big, excels a lot in the straight forward and back type of numbers. I think overall, Terell Smith, I like him. But yet again, another boom or bust prospect that the Bears end up going with. Mm-hmm. This is also where he was expected to go. So it wasn't a huge reach. It wasn't a huge reach or a huge win. This guy, though, is a 1-year stud at Minnesota where he just freaking balled out. He had an 80.9 PFF grade, and you put on the tape, this guy was crazy. And he wasn't even starting for many years at Minnesota. He got the starting job stripped from him in 2021. So I think with him, there's a lot of question marks. Why did that happen? Are you really not that good? Or are you actually really good? Right? Mm-hmm. And Terell Smith, one thing too, is when I watch him, he plays like in Madden. What is it? Like the A button when you just do conservative plays on the wide receiver? That's what he does for all the Madden players out there. He doesn't go after the ball. He goes after the wide receiver. Doesn't have great ball instincts, but you see his size. You see he played the run well last year. He played the pass well last year. This is a dude that can ball. But 1-year stud. He's going to be truly like, okay, let's get the pads on him. And I think very quickly in training camp, we're going to know, is this dude for real or is this guy just a poser? So, Hey, pal, what about you?
Yeah, I like this guy. He's probably a little lower on me than I think for most people. I don't love his taste. I love his physicality. But yeah, we'll see. I think kind of when receivers go through the middle, that's where he kind of gets lost and kind of that maybe his speed. He just kind of loses the receiver, just saying a slant route. But yeah, I think he has great potential, and like a lot of the people in this draft, very coachable, I think. So I think he could potentially be a great player for us and play a lot of special teams. So if he's not a great player, at least he could be there.
Yeah, I'm giving it a B. I think B's are just okay, right? That's what I kind of give this because the Bears are taking a lot of gambles, almost as much as the Lions in the locker room. But still, we're taking a lot of gambles out here where it's boom or bust. And I think, honestly, we'll see what he's able to do. But, yeah, to me, B is just kind of my general, okay. So, yeah, Gambit's giving it a C. Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah.
So, it's
whatever
okay,
we'll see what he can do. Yeah, I guess a C is technically an average if you're talking,
I should probably lower it
or
then,
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of. I guess I'll do a B minus, or I feel a little higher though than our Dexter that pick. So I'm gonna go B as well because I did a B minus for Dexter and those guys.
We'll say I want to bet. Yeah, that the Lions out here playing like Las Vegas. No, but let's keep on moving on. There's enough, Lion smack talk for now. But let's go with the next pick, right? Way down in the 7th round, pick 218, Mr. Defensive Tackle out of Kennesaw State. That's right, the 51st state in the U.S., Kennesaw. We got Mr. Travis Bell. PayPal, what do you think about this guy?
Bad joke, Brad. Bad joke.
Yeah, I'll just shut up for the rest of the show now.
But yeah, first person out of that college to ever get drafted, and holy smokes, like he looks massive. 6 feet, 310. Yeah, I like this guy. I think he had a great. There's not much film or anything out there. It's kind of hard to figure out who this guy is at this point. But loved his interview right away. Like you could tell he has a chip on his shoulder and really has this attitude that he is a great player and doesn't think that this transition into into the NFL, even being from a small school, is going to inhibit him at all. Because I think one of the games he talked about that he really played well was in Cincinnati when he finally got to face against, D1 prospects. And he was like, that's when I knew I was ready for the league. He's like, I did not have any problems with those guys. So I really like this guy. I think it was a great value pick at the 7th round of, you don't know how he's going to translate, but man, from what these stats, 88.9 run defense grade, and barely missed any tackles. He really projects to be a great player, and obviously another great character guy.
Yeah, and I think too, this is just what the Bears like to do in the 7th round. Now we know, right? You can turn the draft off in the 7th round for the Bears. They are just going to take whoever the heck they want. Mm-hmm. And he was so far down on boards, but they wanted to just take a gamble, right? Another gamble pick, another boom or bust player with Travis Bell, where I was hearing that when people went out to his pro day, people were like, dude, this guy can play. This guy is, or just athletically, this guy is different. This guy is fast. This guy, it can be the anchor up front. Like, right? He might be that nose tackle, but he's got the speed. I think for me, if I readjust the average, like this is just a 7th round pick, right? Like I don't love it. I wish that they would have just went with the best player available type of thing. But you know what? With a 7th round pick, why not take a flyer on a guy like this? Why not draft someone like him? So my average has been like B. So I'll just give it a B minus, right? I think it's solid.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that B. As I would give it a B too, because Andre Carter is someone that he was in round 7, so it's like, there was those type of guys that were available of like, wow, like Andre Carter. People were talking about he would be even the 1st round, and then he goes to the 7th, or just things like that where you could look at those better prospects. But hey, I think it's a good flyer, and from what I've seen with this guy, he has that potential of being great.
Yeah, for sure. So there's also some talk in the comments. We got the Detroit Loins out here. I've seen that out there. But yeah, so let's go to our last pick, right? So our last pick that we had out here was pick 258, one pick away from Mr. Irrelevant. And PayPal, this guy was the hardest person in the world to find any information, even harder than Kennesaw State. Kendall Williamson, I was able to watch a little bit of his tape. I don't really have a strength or weakness. There's not much out there. Safety out of Stanford, 6 foot, 205. The comp, I'm kind of looking at like an Elijah Hicks. Just because it reminds me when we drafted Elijah Hicks, where there wasn't a lot of tape on him. And the tape that I did see, he does fly to the ball. He does, another guy that had a good athletic profile, and I believe his athletic score similar to all the other defensive backs that we're getting. Very good straight forward running, but some questions with the agility. So yet again, someone that the Bears are high on. We'll see what he's able to do. Third most tackles last year, 4.49 40 time, 38.5-inch vert, 8.7 RAS score. Only one interception, and that was the only interception that he had in his career, which was last year. Yeah, 51 tackles, 5 years of experience at Stanford. So an experienced starter out there that the Bears were like, you know what, screw it, we're just going to get him. We like him, so we're going to get him. One thing, though, that I will say that gets me really nervous about him was the dude, like, when I looked at him, his LinkedIn was like the first thing I saw. So I'm like, are you looking for jobs? Are you looking for stuff? Or are you an actual legit football player? Like, or did he have to turn down a job to be like, wait a second, I'm just going to play some football? Turns out I got drafted.
Hey,
right?
I think he's a smart guy and he's realistic with himself, you know.
Yeah.
He's very self-aware. That's what that tells me about him. So yeah, he went to Stanford for 5 years. So, you know, he's got to be smart.
He got his master's. So yeah, master's in, I think, sociology. Yeah.
Hey, so I mean, two things that the Bears, we just talked about in the beginning. Physical guys that are smart. And I think it's a great shot, and see if he kind of develops into something. And it's nice getting a safety that just, you know, potentially could grow behind this, this amazing safety group that we have in Eddie Jackson and Brisker, because I think this guy like this could learn a lot from those two players.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what would you give this? Like, what grade do you give
for
to
a
this
7th?
player?
I mean, from what I hear about him, I mean, I would give it like a B plus. I'm kind of on the end of like kind of excited about him. You know, I could see what they saw in him. You know.
Yeah, like to me, I'm giving this like it's the last pick in the draft, right? You're not going to be drafting some crazy starter. They got their guy. Like, it doesn't even warrant like a pick or a grade or something like that, because they wanted to get their guy. And so to that, yeah, C plus, right? Like, I'll give, you know what, or whatever a 3.8 is. That's what we're giving him, because he's a smart dude out there. But PayPal, that about does it for the entire draft class. So we get the tackle. We get 3 defensive tackles, 2 corners, 1 safety, 1 linebacker, 1 running back. I just want to kind of like ask overall, how are we feeling as Bears fans, right? Like, how do we feel after this draft? Not even just like a grade, right? But just how do we feel now with the state of the franchise?
I'm excited for the franchise. I mean, we talked about these guys that have the potential. It's just kind of, I guess the future's unknown, because these guys have potential and they haven't really reached their full. They have holes in their game. But man, I'm confident on offense. That's for sure. It's more the defense I'm kind of concerned, and see if this D line will actually kind of change. I think the secondary I'm confident in. I think Tyrique Stevenson is gonna help his first year playing with us, but the D line is still that question. Offense, our offensive line looks great. Our running back room looks amazing. Our wide receiver room looks even better now.
Yeah,
I think our offense is set. It's just kind of that defensive line still.
Yeah, and I'll say this, right? I think the way I see it, the offense, no excuses, right? We can't make excuses. Yeah. Don, everyone's favorite Lion fan, is probably listening and going, all right, like, take notes, right? We'll see if we make excuses if something doesn't go right? But I do think the Darnell Wright pick had to be made, right? You had to make that pick because you needed to just make sure that right side was shored up. And I think now your offense is set. And you got a rookie running back, too, that you can kind of trot out there. You have a Travis Homer who can at least, pass block. You have everything that you need. So now it's time to execute. There are no excuses this year. If something bad happens, if they stink again, Flus might be on the chopping block. I think that they have developed a team well this year. But I switch over to the defense, like you were saying, like the defensive line, the defensive ends, we got to sign some people. There's plenty of defensive ends out there. We'll recover and talk about the free agency class if they don't sign someone this week, right? I think on Thursday that's a perfect show for us to cover and break down who's still out there and who might the Bears actually end up getting. Because overall, yeah, I feel optimistic about the Bears. So, what are we going to give this draft?
Yeah,
what is the grade?
It's tough. That's tough. I saw something that was interesting, and you saw kind of what we were able to get. I mean, if you factor in technically our draft picks, you could technically say put in the DJ Moore, and the number one. Technically, he's kind of part of the draft too, Brad.
Yeah, okay.
So,
yeah.
I mean, if we're including like what we've gotten from all of our picks, I would honestly say A-. I mean, if we include that DJ Moore, Chase Claypool as well, I would do that. But just as of now, I would probably say B+. I think there's those guys at day 3 where we really excelled. But then, yeah, that day 2, it was kind of questionable with our D tackle picks. And then, but great pick with Darnell Wright. And yeah, that day 3 was great.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. And yeah, like we got Gambit saying you got to add in DJ Moore. And then Cornelius too saying DJ Moore. Down Burr saying F+. At least he gave us a plus,
Yeah, nice.
Kudos.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's very nice of him out here. But no, the day 2, I remember the feeling of just like kind of, I don't want to say despair. That sounds dramatic. But like to me, I like the idea of doubling up if you're later on in the draft, right? If we had 2 third-round picks and we did that, we had an early third and a mid-second. You know what? If we're adding in DJ Moore, then yes, I think if you add in DJ Moore, then if it's in the A range, I agree with that. But I think for me, I'm gonna go B+. I think because of day 3, like that day 3 was great. Or B. Yeah, I'm just gonna go B. I think that it was solid. I do have to look at the talent, and that's I think the big thing. I'm going to just stick at B. I'm going to stick with like kind of an average, because it's really that day 2. I don't love Dexter. I don't love Pickens that early. I think that's the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way. And it should carry more weight. I love the day 3 stuff. I love like the early day 3, freaking awesome.
Hey, Brad, would you put yours up a little bit more if I told you, and I agree with Donald right here, our boy Donald.
Yeah.
Williamson is the Brock Purdy of the defensive back class. Would you increase your grade there? I mean, Williamson might be the Brock Purdy.
And I love that. I would love that.
Class. Yeah. I'm right there with him. I'm kind of high on Kendall.
He was Mr. Slightly Irrelevant.
Yeah.
He's got to have that jersey on him. But I don't know. I think overall, like to me, it's a solid draft, right? I just don't love what they did in day 2. And I think that there's another chart that I don't have out here, but I was looking at draft value, right? And the Bears, when I was looking at the charts, for the best player available, the Bears were good, right? They were, I think, like 11th in football. Like they made good picks most of the time. But when you look at just the value that they get out of the defensive tackles, I think it's what they needed to do, what they wanted to do. And that's why, to me, I'm not factoring in DJ Moore, which is another thing, but I'm just going to give it a B. I think it was a solid draft. I think they did everything that they need to, but I'm not head over heels with it. And but yeah, so it's a B for me. And PayPal, what was yours?
Yeah, B+. I think I'm more optimistic on it. I was leaning, honestly, if we're including DJ Moore, an A-. But yeah, I'm optimistic for the future of the Bears. They filled a lot of holes that we were really hoping that they would.
Yeah, that I think overall. So, but it's good, right? And I think now Bears Bones said it in the comments. Bears are hinting at a defensive end. So on Thursday, we're going to do one of two things then. One, we're going to probably go through some free agents. Or two, we're going to be breaking down the new defensive end that we will sign or trade for. But we'll talk about who's available because the Bears still are in desperate need of a defensive end. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe out there on YouTube. Like we said, help us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers, and we will donate an additional $100 to the National Alliance of Mental Illness. It's National Mental Health Awareness Month, so if you're feeling down, make sure to get yourself some help. We appreciate all of you, and with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and you know that